How inflation has impacted families across America. We know inflation has wreaked havoc in 2022. What are we going to do about it now? Stay tuned tonight. So stay tuned. We got Matt Schulz here from LendingTree. He's the chief credit analyst. So let's get into it now. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of our ladies, you're now tuned into the Investor Show. As always, this is your gracious host, the Prince of Investment, coming to you guys and girls live all the way from the beautiful city and state of Denver, Colorado, via the very beautiful city and state, really, Honolulu, Hawaii. But ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't done so already, I know what time it is. Please go ahead and make sure you hit that like, subscribe, comment, and share button. And as always, I don't have a lot of time, and I definitely know you guys and girls don't have a lot of time, so we're going to jump straight into it. Like you guys and girls already saw, inflation in 2022, the CPI report has been all over the place. Inflation, everybody's talking about, from egg prices to gas prices, has wreaked havoc on families across the globe. Some people are saying, hey, I don't know where my money is going. I'm making the same amount of money. What happened? What's going on? So with that being said, we've seen inflation wreak havoc on us, and all the pressures people are starting to have with the markets going down. Now we're seeing a mass amounts of unemployment happen. So with my guest here today, Mr. Matt Schulz here, he's live from Austin, Texas. He's going to be talking. He's the chief credit analyst of LendingTree. He is a credit card expert, small business expert. You've seen him on everything from Good Morning America, NBC, to Wall Street Journal. He's a stud, if you guys and girls didn't know. But without further ado, Matt, how is it going today?
Pretty good. I like that intro. Thank you very much.
Nice. Now, it's definitely a little bit warmer down there in Texas than it is up here in Denver, Colorado, I could bet. But this thing was going on. I want to ask you this: with families feeling these pressures that are going on right now, what recommendation would you give to families that are on the verge of, you're seeing layoffs happen, you're seeing inflation go on? What are some advice would you give out there for families?
Yeah, really the first thing you need to do, if you can, is to knock down some of that outstanding debt that you have. Because if you have credit card debt, this isn't any great secret, but interest rates have gone up like crazy. It seems like the Fed's been raising rates every 20 minutes for a year now. And all that does is make your credit card debt and other types of debt more expensive. So it's obviously easier said than done when everybody's on a tight budget and all of the basic costs of life seem like they're getting more expensive by the day. But if you can do things to knock down that debt and maybe try and put a little bit away in that emergency fund, that's probably goal number one for you.
So how would you balance that? Would you focus on that emergency fund more, or knocking down the debt more?
Well, honestly, if you can do both, that's probably your best call. And it may seem kind of weird to do that, because the longer you drag out that debt, the more you're going to pay on that debt. But the truth is that the only way to break that cycle of debt that so many people have such a hard time getting out of is to have that emergency fund, because otherwise, when you get that credit card debt down to zero, if you don't have any savings, that next flat tire, or when you have to pay the vet when you take in your sick dog, that charge is just going to go back on your credit card, and that cycle of debt's just going to keep on spinning. So the best thing that you can do really is to make sure that you are paying down that debt and putting a little bit of money away at the same time.
Okay. Now, I see that you're the credit card expert. The credit card expert, what does that entail? What advice can you give us regarding credit cards? I mean, I just know the basics of it, but is credit card a good thing or a bad thing? What do you got to say about that?
Honestly, a credit card used wisely can be a really great tool. It can be really lucrative. But the truth is that if you don't handle it well, it can be really dangerous.
Well, hold
I've
on,
been on both sides.
Matt,
I had
I got to ask.
$10,000 in credit card debt in my 20s just because I made lots and lots of bad decisions that were nobody's fault but mine. And then I got that paid down. And in recent years, I've been I've been using it to earn rewards and that sort of thing. But what it really comes down to is how you use it. And if you are somebody who constantly carries a balance and is using credit cards and isn't super disciplined about it, then you can get yourself in some real trouble. But if you make the right choices, if you just use those credit cards and you pay them off in full every month, then through rewards and things like that, it can really actually work for you.
Now, man, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but
No, it's all
you're
good.
the first person I ever heard say credit cards can be a lucrative thing. How can credit cards be a lucrative thing? Please explain that to me.
Yeah, credit cards can absolutely be lucrative, and it's to a degree, it's one of those it takes money to make money sort of things, where if you use a credit card and you are able to pay that balance off in full every single month, you can get things like cash back, 2% or so back on what you spend. And it may not sound like a ton of money, but it adds up over time. And if you are willing to pay a little bit more, pay for things like annual fees and that sort of thing, it can really save you a lot of money in terms of travel and things like that. Personally, I've used credit card rewards to travel quite a few places around the world, and it's been a really, really lucrative thing. But again, it's really all about making sure that you don't carry a balance. Because if you do carry a balance, then it can be a really, really difficult thing. Because if you do carry a balance, the last thing you want to do is chase credit card rewards, because you don't have to be an accountant to understand that it doesn't make sense to try and chase 2% cash back if you're going to be paying 24% interest on the other side. The math just doesn't work in your favor.
Okay, so you're saying credit cards can be a lucrative thing if you use the credit card, pay it off at the end of the month, and get all of the rewards that come along with it, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. But it is all about managing it correctly and handling your business. Because if you are somebody who carries a balance, your your best choice is to be focused on things like a balance transfer credit card rather than chasing rewards.
Balance transfer credit cards, how does that work? Why would I want to utilize that?
Oh, a balance transfer credit card is about the best weapon that you have in your arsenal against credit card debt. How those cards work is that you move a balance from one credit card to another credit card, and that new credit card allows you to go 12 months, 15 months, up to 21 months sometimes without accruing any interest on that balance that you transfer. And that can save you a ton of money, especially when interest rates right now are up around 23% on a new credit card offer. So there are fees that are associated with it. There are some limits to it. There's some deadlines to it. But and you also need to have pretty good credit, like probably 670, 680 FICO score or higher to get one. But if you can get one and you use it wisely, it can be a really, really great tool that a lot of people don't necessarily consider.
Okay, that's pretty good to know about transferring that balance to say, hey, I have a balance on a credit card and I can transfer that balance and maybe get 15 months 0% interest, and I can be paying towards the actual principal instead of paying interest. Am I getting that correct?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we've done some surveys at LendingTree where we've asked people about balance transfer cards, and there's some myths out there, and there's a little bit of misunderstanding around some of these cards. And we're all sort of programmed nowadays to think that if something sounds too good to be true, or sounds like an amazing deal, there's probably some sort of catch. But with balance transfer credit cards, a lot of people think that if you don't pay off that balance that you transfer during that 0% period, you're going to get hit with a bill for all the interest that you would have accrued during that time. And that's something that we see with so-called special financing deals that you would see at retailers and that sort of thing. But it's not something that we generally see with balance transfer credit cards. With balance transfer credit cards, the only interest that you're going to pay on that transferred balance is what's left after that 0% period ends. So it really is a good deal, and it can really make a difference to people who are struggling with credit card debt.
Okay. So I will say the best thing to do. So like most families right now, pretty much the average American, I think, average American household, I think it was somewhere like 10 to 20,000 to be exact, of like the average income, just the debt that people carry on credit cards. And what's the first thing you would do? Would you tell them to budget first, to say, hey, create yourself a budget, or how would you kind of maneuver around to getting these things taken care of?
A budget is where it has to begin, because you can't make a meaningful plan to tackle credit card debt unless you know exactly how much money is coming in and going out of your household each month. And once you know that, you can start to make some decisions and shift some money around and prioritize. And the thing is that even if you do have a budget, it needs to be this kind of living, breathing thing. If you haven't looked at yours in the past 6 months or so, it's really time for you to revisit it, because chances are all of those assumptions that you made about how much you're going to be spending on things are all outdated or all out the window because of inflation. And it's probably giving you a little bit of a distorted view of what your financial situation is. So if you haven't taken a look at that budget in the last 3 to 6 months, it's a really good idea now to go in and review it, make sure that everything is accurate, and that way that you can have the best assessment of where you really stand financially.
Okay. Now let's get into the small bit. Well, you know what? Let's get into LendingTree exactly. What is LendingTree for people who've never heard of LendingTree or things like that?
Yeah, LendingTree is basically an online marketplace for all sorts of loans, from credit cards to personal loans to mortgages and on down the line. And so we're a place where you can comparison shop different loans that you're looking for, but we also have a lot of helpful information about how to help you acquire these loans and how to manage them once you get them. Everything from kind of tips as to managing credit, and even things like calculators that can help you in terms of handling your business. So there's a ton of information to go and see.
Now, on LendingTree, is it that you can also become a lender on LendingTree as well?
Can you become a lender?
Yeah, like some people like you can borrow money from direct people, or is it just from institutions?
I believe it's just from
Just institutions.
institutions.
Okay. Just want to
Yeah,
make sure there. All right. So
sure.
LendingTree is kind of like get you all the best rates that are out there, things like that, right?
Yeah, and it really is true that that shopping around can make a big difference, because a lot of times people are just like, well, I've had this relationship with the bank forever. I'll just go to them. They'll probably take care of me. But the fact is that the more you shop around, the better off you'll be, and especially now when interest rates are so high. If you don't shop around at LendingTree and sites like and some of our competitors, you're really doing yourself a disservice.
Okay. Guys and girls, we're going to take a break. I mean, a very quick break, and we'll be right back here on ThinkTech Hawaii with Matt Schulz of LendingTree. Y'all stay tuned. We're back live here on the Prince of Investment, coming to you guys and girls live all the way from the beautiful city and state of Denver, Colorado, via Honolulu, Hawaii. We're back here with my special guest here from LendingTree. He's the chief credit analyst. He's down in Austin, Texas, giving us some awesome advice, especially on credit cards and getting out of debt, things like that. Now we're going to shift a little bit. I want to ask you this question, Matt. The average entrepreneur that starts out, most of them start out with a credit card because people always say, start a business. Well, how do you get it? How do you get an LLC? You need money to get an LLC. You need money to get a bank account. You need money to get an EIN, right? Maybe not an EIN directly, but to do all your filings and all that stuff like that, you incur some type of fee. Now you need to purchase inventory. Even once you get that business account, it's not going to automatically just, hey, here's the funding, right? You're going to have to be able to buy inventory, materials to put something together to even get that business rolling. Do you agree with that, starting out your business on your credit card?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, if you had some savings or things like that, that might be able to get you started, that might be a better way to go. But the truth is that most people don't have a whole lot of savings. They don't have a whole lot of financial wiggle room. So what they end up doing is turning to a small business credit card, and it can be a good way to get that small business started or that side hustle started. They can be really good tools for sure.
Now, would you agree with that? You know, getting to get that small business started, utilizing a credit card, then now the business is in credit card debt, get all this debt that you owe and things like that, with hopes and dreams of one day being able to pay all the lenders back at one time, like every entrepreneur has to dream of? Or do you just recommend, hey, save up your money, get a job or whatever you need to do, save up your money, then kind of build it out with pure cash? Or because the thing is, some people are like, hey, if I build it with pure cash, it's going to take me 5 years to get enough capital to do what I need to do if I did it with pure cash. But if I sign up for the small business credit card, I can get it done within, you know, 5 weeks. What do you have to say to that?
Yeah. I mean, the truth is that some of it does come down to your own personal risk tolerance. If you're somebody who's just kind of itching to go and has the idea and knows that they're passionate about it and they want to just get after it right off the bat, a credit card can be a really good idea, and it can be a way to kind of jumpstart things. If you'd be more comfortable saving up a little bit more so you have a little bit of a cushion that if things don't go quite well, that you can fall back on that a little bit, that's fine too. It's a little bit about kind of your own personal preference. But I mean, what most entrepreneurs will tell you is that there's no perfect time to start a business. There's always excuses for not doing it now. And really, what a small business credit card can let you do is let you kind of dive in and get started and have a little bit of funding right off the bat so you can kind of strike when the iron's hot.
Okay. Now, striking when the iron is hot. Speaking of this, what would you do for kids? Building credit for kids. What would you do, or what would your advice be for building credit for kids?
Yeah, what's interesting is that you can really give your kid a jump start when it comes to credit by making them what's called an authorized user on your credit card. And basically, what that does is that it allows them to use your credit card, gives them a card in there with their name on it, and lets them use that card in the same way that you are able to. But how that helps them credit wise is that with that card, when the person's made into an authorized user, all of the positive, negative, well, yeah, all the positive history with that card shifts to that authorized user. So you can have, in theory, a 14, 15-year-old kid um, with a history on their credit card that's a decade old. if you make them an authorized user on a card that you've had for a long time. And what this does is it really kind of gets them from 0 to 60 in 2.3 seconds instead of 10 seconds, and can really kind of open up some opportunities for them when they turn 18 and can get their own credit card themselves.
Have you heard of the children's book, Wesley Learns About Credit? Have you heard about that one?
I have seen about it from reading up on you a little bit before I came onto the show. Sure.
Okay, I would good. Okay, I wanted to make sure at least heard about that. But now, when you look at the concept of for, let's say, is there any other ways I can help build credit for children besides making an authorized user that you just stated? What else can I do out there?
Well, I mean that really is the best one. Yeah, I mean that's really about the best one that's out there. I mean, there are some other things like credit builder loans and stuff like that, but if you're talking about giving your kid who's, even like 12, 13 years old, a little bit of a jump start, making them an authorized user on a credit card is about the best way to go. You need to have some frank discussions with them about what the expectations are and what the consequences are if they don't handle that card well or don't handle the responsibility well. But really, making them an authorized user is a really great tool.
Okay. Now, by a child starting off with good credit, what will be the next step once they turn 18 and that now you start them off with that good credit card? What would be something else advice would you give out there for parents when it comes down to giving their children a better start than what they had?
Yeah, it's one thing that I would say is that generally, if you're talking about credit, the earlier you start, the better, because getting good credit is really all about time. And you're not going to have somebody who is 25 years old, chances are, with an 800, 825 credit score, because it's really all about doing the right things over time. So when your kid turns 18, um, getting them their own credit card in their own name is a really good thing to do. Maybe that's a secured credit card if they haven't been an authorized user for you before, or um, maybe it's kind of a standard cashback student card for folks who maybe are a little bit ahead of the game when it comes to credit. But it really is kind of about getting started as soon as possible. And speaking of, as a parent myself, I always relate credit to a kid borrowing the keys to the car for mom and dad. That first time or two that you ask, mom and dad are going to put a whole lot of restrictions on you and not let you do a whole lot. But if over time you keep returning it with the gas tank full and no scratches and coming home meeting curfew every single time, eventually they're going to loosen the reins on you a little bit and give you more freedom. And that's really exactly what credit is in terms of banks wanting you to prove yourself and make sure that you can handle your business if they're going to give you all this money.
Okay. Now, LendingTree, what does LendingTree do for entrepreneurs, small business owners, things like that?
Yeah, there are plenty of personal loans, small business credit cards, and loans that can help entrepreneurs. And we've got plenty of information and tips about things that you can do to help your small business and resources that you can reach out to for help from the government and other types of organizations. So there are a lot of tools available to small business people and to entrepreneurs to check out at lendingtree.com.
Okay. Well, before we get out of here, Matt Schulz, if people want to hear more about you and say, man, that was the coolest guy I saw on your show, and they want to get more from you, how can people follow you, find you, stalk you, all of the good stuff like that?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Matthew Schulz, Mattthew, and the last name is Schulz. It's pronounced like a T, like there's a T in it, but there's not one. And I also, you can find me at LendingTree.com or just at MattSchulz.com as well.
Okay. Matt, say anything you want to leave people with before you get out of here?
Yeah, the one thing that I would add is that if you are looking for more help with credit card debt and trying to fight against higher interest rates, one thing that I always tell people that kind of comes as a surprise sometimes is that you can just call your credit card issuer and ask them to lower your rate. LendingTree did a survey last year, and we've done them in previous years as well, that showed that 70% of people who ask for a lower interest rate on their credit card get one, but way too few people ever ask. And it's a really high number. And given that the success rate is that high, it means that it's not just people with perfect credit and long histories who are getting their way. It's people who may have imperfect credit and who may really, really need it. And anything that you can do, especially when rates are as high as they are today, to knock down that interest rate by maybe even just making a phone call is really something you should consider.
Okay. Well, thank you for adding that in there because I don't think a lot of people think about that because, you don't get a report saying, hey, this is your interest rate. People don't think about it. Just see their balance and try to work on their balance. So that's a very good point there. I definitely want to say thank you for having on. Would you come back onto the show?
Anytime. This was a lot of fun.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, until the next time and until the next video, podcast, cartoon, or whatever else crazy you see me doing around the globe. Y'all know my name is Prince Dykes. This is the Prince of Investment. Until the next video podcast, peace, be safe, I'm out, and thank you.
Thank you so much for watching ThinkTech Hawaii. If you like what we do, please like us and click the subscribe button on YouTube and the follow button on Vimeo. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and donate to us at thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.